All right, first things first, what I use for resin. Now when you're fiberglassing, I've built boats with my dad before, built a 50-foot Westmac. You got two choices of resin. You got polyester, or you got epoxy. Epoxy is gonna dry harder, it's gonna be stronger. It's for lightweight finish coats usually, but you can use it for the whole project. Poly is gonna dry slightly tacky, so you don't need to sand between layers of fiberglass. This, I can leave the link in the description. This is the cheapest poly resin on Facebook or Amazon right now. And then it's a 1% mix. You can mix 2%, 1.5, and gives you different activation times and stuff, but just basic. We're not gonna get too fancy. We're gonna stick with the 1% mix. So 1% of this, you're basically trying to match the bottle. So you pour half the bottle, you pour half the hardener. Unless you have an actual measuring. I'm winging it. So I used a cap full of this, and I would fill my jug up to about here. So, I mean, that's just a ballpark. If you have a vinegar jug like that, or a 1 gallon jug like that, just put, you know, two inches in the bottom and a cap full. This was my acetone with these rollers. This is how you get your air bubbles out. I've taken them apart already. That's pretty important to do when you're done. And then I used a hot dog roller, just these little 4-inch soft jackets. And there's my cleanup of my handle. And I'm using nail polish remover. It's 100% acetone. That's all you need. There just wasn't a proper gallon in town, so I just grabbed a bunch of those pieces of nail polish. Now let's get in the truck and talk about what we've done in here. So I like to do it at night. Stuff doesn't kick off as fast. You got a little bit more time to work. So I already had the roof rack installed on the truck, and I didn't want to take it out. And you're going to get 90% of the strength out of these bolts, especially where the load is going down on it. It's not like there's real danger of this stuff tearing out. So I've got big patches going all the way across, and then smaller patches, second coat of cross-weaved smaller pieces. So you can kind of see the seams. What you want to do when you lay out your glass is on your prep board, you're going to lay out resin on that, lay your cloth, wet your cloth. Once it's wet, pick it up, bring it in here, use your roller to roll it against, and just don't get it over wet, especially when you're working overhead. It'll fall back down. So you want it like just barely saturated, just wet enough so it's sticking to the board, and then you're going to come in here and roll it out. You do want to wet as you go. You don't want to do the whole thing because it'll start to get really sticky and really messy. So you kind of want to come in and, like, let's say I was just going to work this area. I'm going to get all that wet with resin, right? And then when I move back here and I start doing across here, then I'm going to wet as I go back, you know, so that you're getting a little bit of tack to it, but not too much. And then you just roll your cloth out onto it. It'll stick fairly well. You get the edges rolled out, and then you switch over to dipping those metal ridge rollers in acetone so they don't get stuck to it, because as the resin starts to kick off, those rollers will stick. So you dip it in acetone. This was my acetone bucket. Dip your roller in acetone, roll the bubbles out of it, and you want to roll the bubbles to the edge. So if you got ridges in your fiberglass, that just means the cloth is on there and it's distorted. So usually I'll roll, if there's a ridge in the middle, I'll roll either end of the cloth away. So I'll start in the middle, roll out, roll forward, roll backward, try to get that middle piece stretched out and flat. So the reason that I'm doing this is because I decided to put an 8-foot rack on the top of my truck that's not supported up front. So you got a lot of weight, especially if I'm gonna put stuff up there. You got a lot of weight right on this right here. So we are strengthening, putting layers of glass on that so that you don't get the flex. And the other thing is just rolling out resin on the inside of your truck cab is going to increase the strength of it. Probably at least as much as adding a layer of glass on its own would, because a lot of these they're shot with a chop gun. So you got chop cloth, which is just batten that's so this is woven because it's actually got a weave to it. The chop cloth is just strands at every which direction. It looks like a mess. And then you can kind of see what it looks like right there. That's what it looks like wet. It's just going in all directions. So this, because it was shotgun, so they use a chop gun that just shoots fiberglass and resin into a mold. The inside of this was actually very dry, and just painting over this with resin is, you know, filled in a lot of the voids and a lot of the stuff that's not adding strength on the inside. So if you don't want to get into fiberglassing the inside of your cap, I would definitely roll it out with resin if you want to strengthen it. And it seals the inside a lot better too, as you can see, like the shine. I'll show you guys the finished product tomorrow when it's daylight and dry. But yeah, I've had a lot of experience growing up fiberglassing. We built rowboats and built me a little lobster boat, and then built a big boat for my dad. So any questions, leave them in the comments. I'm more than happy to answer them. And I hope that you guys have some projects that you'd like to do that this video would be useful for. All right.